All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Biden White House owes reporters a blanket apology for this. I would say that he definitely needs to give a lot of people apologies, mainly the people who were reporting on the mental issues that were kind of being put on display to the world, right? Representing our country in a way that was absolutely weak, to be honest, right? While then saying none of these things are actually true. These are all lies. While saying one day, I'm not dropping out. Why would you believe all these news, publications and things that are saying that I'm going to drop out? And then a couple of days later being like, listen, I'm going to drop out. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Kamala Harris. Why? Because of the optics of it, obviously, guys, right? I mean, think about this here. She's basically going to probably high 90% get the black woman vote almost exclusively, guys. Right? That's going to be the reality of the situation. But the problem is that that's only going to last so long. Now, don't get me wrong, we're really close to election time. And a lot of information is going to end up coming out. And I'm telling you right now, she's a cop, right? She's a prosecutor for the most part. But the problem is that there were a couple of issues publicly with some of the cases that she in fact prosecuted, right? Sending people to jail because their kids were late to school. Now, don't get me wrong. I think your kids should be in school, but I'm also not sure jail should come from your kid being late to the indoctrination camp. Okay, I'm not sure that should be a thing, guys. But either way, right, when that information starts to kind of leak out and like who she was specifically targeting because of the area she was obviously in, there are going to be issues, right? And I'm not sure that's good enough, right? I don't think she's good enough as a candidate because there are a lot of issues with the concept of a prosecutor, specifically in the Black American community, right? Large scale. So either way, right? Let's see who else they have, guys. I mean, obviously, there's a couple more people that would have the ability to kind of step in instead of Kamala Harris. But obviously, Kamala Harris is going to be at the top of the Democrats' ticket. That's just going to be the reality of the situation here. You have a couple other people, but a lot of these other people are not. They don't have the same pull, guys, right? As because she's again is going to solidify a gigantic. Semi-gigantic, let's say, voting block. I'm not sure if black men specifically are going to go chasing for the vote for her, guys. I'm not sure exactly, based on the fact that a lot of black men are currently almost in mass, it seems, running as fast as humanly possible from the Democrat Party in the first place, right? So there are a couple of things, but would they specifically vote for Trump? I don't know. I don't think so, right? I think that probably maybe 20, 30% most likely will, but the other half are probably just not going to vote at all, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we've just been stuck with betters of two evils and pick the one you don't like the least. That's basically that's basically how the American politics have been for the last couple of decades now, I'd say, right? But let's go ahead and check this video out immediately, and it's a suggestion via Discord. But I will say, though, really quickly, the ones who will be flipping, I'll tell you this right now, would be the ones that were directly affected by the migrant crisis, specifically the ones that are in the overwhelming majority of major cities, specifically Chicago and New York. That was pretty much the easiest way to get people onto, let's say, the side of the right. Definitely, specifically if they were not initially on the side of the right, because they actually are now experiencing policies that they in fact voted for, but they're just going to be single issue voters. Like, you cannot expect for these individuals to kind of stay loyal to the Republican Party at all. You cannot expect these people to. They won't. They're just here to basically get migrants specifically out of their area, large scale at least, right? But all right, let's see where this video takes us, guys. The Biden White House owes reporters a blanket apology for this. Let's check it out.
Going to ask you about this. We knew there was going to be a handful more, at least, governors tomorrow that were going to come out and say it was time for Joe to go. But just looking through some of these brand new statements as they come in, following the news, perhaps Tony Evers of Wisconsin, the governor, was going to make the call tomorrow. We don't know that, but he did issue a statement acknowledging the president stepping out, calling him an extraordinary president, if not the most well-accomplished presidents of my lifetime. But he.
Bro, are you young?
Goes on to say that the decision remains clear, the choice remains clear this November, calls Donald Trump a dictator, a lot of work ahead of us. Wisconsin Democrats, he said, and I will spend every moment and every day for the next 107 days working to defeat him, but does not mention Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
So this will be the question as we read through all these statements. I mean, how many are throwing their support behind the vice president?
And also, what is her political operation like? I'm curious about that, Sandra, because I do think she knew what his condition was. Okay, she will deny it, but I do think that 100%. She knew. But I don't think that her political operation was up and running. Lisa Booth just mentioned all of those reboot stories there were. There were so many of them over time. Think of how many. You think of that Wall Street Journal story where there were 45 sources questioning Biden's mental capacity and acuity, right? And the White House came down on them like a ton of bricks. Turns out,
of course,
actually, all of it was true.
Right, all of it.
But also think about the on-the-record sources.
Allegedly, all of it.
On the stories about Kamala Harris over the past 3.5 years. Okay, those weren't very good. And also, when they start to pick apart her record, I don't think it will stand up very well. There's not much, actually, from the Senate that she did. Yes, I think she was a pretty good questioner at the hearings. If you're looking for somebody who had a little bit of red meat questions, the hearing with Brett Kavanaugh comes to mind. If you're
Bro, she's a prosecutor.
Democrat, you might really like that. But other than that, there is not a lot of accomplishments to point to.
Oh, and the thing with the border just became a complete disaster to the point where it looked like she completely washed her hands of it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. The Congressional Black Caucus just came out in support of a Kamala Harris nomination, saying the Congressional Black Caucus PAC joins President Biden in fully supporting Kamala Harris and our party's nominees. So sorry, that's the PAC. It's not the actual Black Caucus, though I'm sure that they will do the same thing. Dana, you said that you had some thoughts about LBJ and all of this.
I think a couple of things to mention. So I had this great fortune of doing a voiceover for a documentary that's a short one on Fox Nation about the 1968 campaign. And it was fascinating because there were things that I had forgotten and things that I had my memory refreshed on. But one of them was that, yes, LBJ was having some trouble looking like he was going to win. But as I understand it, he had also suffered a heart attack and he was very fearful and really freaked out about his own health. And Lady Bird Johnson did not want him to run again. And she didn't even know up until he made the statement that he was going to pull out. She wasn't sure. Contrast that with what we have at this point, which is the stories that we know about First Lady Jill Biden really wanting her husband to remain as president. The family, remember that story from Camp David after the Annie Leibovitz photo shoot, and they have brunch and they tell the President Biden, Dad, you got to stay in. Joe, you got to stay in. Oh my gosh, you were so great. You answered all the questions. I mean, I certainly hope that I live long enough to read the history of what actually was going down on this campaign, because Weekend at Bernie's is going to look like, I don't know.
I mean, but let's not forget, it was just, not too distant future where the Democrats and the media were slamming all these videos that were emerging of Obama walking him off the stage and beyond, and him freezing up when they were all dancing around him. Cheap fakes, they called them. And they said that the media was manipulating these videos to make it appear that his health was stumbling.
I would imagine that the White House press office might consider, issuing a blanket apology to reporters who were doing the right thing. Lucas Tomlinson, almost a year to the day.
Ooh, yeah, okay. They won't. At all. Under no circumstance will they actually ever admit any type of fault. Why would they?
When Biden was in Nantucket last year, he shouts a question, Mr. President, are you too old to run for office? And remember, they came down on him again, like a house brick. They tried to make Lucas Tomlinson look like the meanest, biggest. He was right. And if you were watching this channel, you would not have been surprised. And it wasn't out of being mean or being angry. It was being observant and pointing it out. And I do think that there is no overstating the danger of keeping an American president in office when he's too frail to run for re-election. I think it's on the merits that point. I've been thinking about it, John, ever since.
Yeah, I've been saying this, guys. Personally, I would cap the concept of presidency at 65. No more than that. Because, to be honest, anything older than that is too old to run for president. Anything older than that. But all right.
You asked me.
But in terms of the White House coming out with an apology, I think we can probably apply the title of the Eagles' comeback album, their reunion album.
That is not going to happen. But I honestly think, like, when they leave the White House, like, think about that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Okay. But I definitely hope that, depending on how this, all of the media run of this story is going to go, I definitely hope that just as people were pointing out the fact that that Biden specifically was like, an elderly man, I do hope that at least people are not going to be intellectually dishonest here or even disingenuous and still call out the fact that there are still a couple of old men, really old men, running for president right now, guys. Right? Hopefully that the narrative doesn't stop, because it's that truthfully was the reality, right? I like the fact that you're kind of pointing this out. I definitely would always, and I mean this, prefer to have someone at least with some skin in the game still, guys. We know within the next 10, 20 years, they're not going to be here to see really the repercussions of the actions that they actually set into place, in the White House, right? We need someone that is closer to the overall median age of the people that are actually out there physically working, earning the income to basically fund Social Security. We do not need individuals in the White House that are receiving Social Security, guys. We do not. All right? For the sake of our planet, we do not. Because, again, these people have no skin in the game. None. But, all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.